What's up guys, Peter here from Reviews on Anything, and in this video we're having a look at some lifting straps. More specifically, these are the lifting straps with Dowel from Grip Power Pads. Now Grip Power Pads is obviously a company we've looked at extensively on this channel, and we like most of their products, and these are no exception. What are they? Let's start with that. Obviously most of you will probably know the traditional lifting strap, which is a Velcro strap in this, or a cuff in this case, that goes around your wrist. You also have them just with a loop. And then you have this long piece of cotton in this case that you wrap around the bar like so, and then hold it in place with your hand so you have a bit more grip, because it transfers some of the weight through the strap, through the cuff, to your wrists. So you can imagine when you're doing heavy pulling exercises, anything for your back, heavy deadlifts and so on, that your hands can't hold the weight anymore because the weight gets too heavy and your hand muscles are relatively small. So with this you take a bit of the weight away from your hands and put it around your wrists, so it's easier to lift and you can lift heavier weight and more reps and so on. But that said, this is a bit of a fiddle. No matter how experienced you are, you have to wrap it around the bar with one hand. You can imagine if both hands are tied to the bar, then you have to fiddle around. It is a bit of a thing to learn and a bit of a thing to get used to, and it's not definitely something everybody wants to do all the time. Not to mention it takes time to do so. Now in come these straps with a dowel. They serve the exact same purpose, but you can see that the actual strap part is much shorter, and there is a little cylinder in here on the top. That is because this only wraps around the bar once, and you hold the cylinder and the whole strap in place with your fingers around the cylinder, making it much easier because it only has to go around the bar once. And actually there's an additional, because the cylinder is sort of a bump that sticks out, there's an additional thing to hold on to with your fingers in order to keep the bar and keep the strap in place. So it's much easier, much less of a fiddle, and much less work in order to strap onto the weights and get going. Now let's put this one to the side, because this one is already rolled up. Tour around the product actually quickly. You can see that it's super wide. There's very thick neoprene here. That makes it both very comfortable but also slightly cumbersome, because it is so thick and so big. It takes a few workouts to sort of break it in. This is something that needs that couple of workouts in order to become a little bit more supple and a little bit easier to handle. Because you can imagine that this neoprene is quite stiff once it gets out of the packaging, and the same goes for the broad Velcro strip and so on. So you have to work it a few times in order to get the full benefit out of it. But don't worry, that's like 2 or 3 workouts and you'll be more than fine. Everything screams heavy duty about this, which is nice. The strap itself is nice and broad. Neoprene is broad and thick. This whole bit is very nice and broad with big Velcro, lots of adjustability, a very thick steel buckle. So it screams quality, which is great, because that's what you want from your gym gear. Last thing you want is something snapping mid-set and the weight snatching out of your hands. That's definitely not going to happen with this. You can see that this is the right one. The other one says left, obviously. Doesn't really matter on which hand you put it, depending on how you sort of adjust the cuff around your wrist. But it's nice that they put it on there anyway. Goes on like so, just like the straps. You have to sort of maneuver it into place slightly, and then you can obviously adjust it as tight or as loose as you want. Now because the neoprene is so thick, inevitably there is going to be some room left here on the top and the bottom, but that's okay, because the weight obviously moves that way, since that is where you hold it. As long as it stays underneath your hand, it's about locking it under your hand. It doesn't have to be so tight around your wrist that your hand doesn't get any blood anymore. So the big surface helps with that. And when it starts, the weight starts pulling on the cuff, it is actually nice to have that large surface area to cushion the strain from the band itself. There's straps that are just sort of a loop that goes around your wrist, and you can imagine that gets quite uncomfortable as the weights get heavier. Not with this though, so that's awesome. Then the strap itself, which as you can see is pretty much the size of your hand. For me it's slightly under the middle of my middle finger, and that's really how you hold it as well. You wrap it around the bar once and then you hold it in place, and that's really all there is to it. depending a little bit on the thickness of the bar. With a standard Olympic bar you can wrap it around once and keep the dowel in place with your fingers like so, and then all is well. If you have a very thin, for example, pull down bar or whatever, you might be able to get away with wrapping it around twice, but no, doesn't really, it's not really necessary, because you know you don't add any additional grip with that, especially since you're using the dowel, the little cylinder here, to keep everything in place like so. Conclusion, short and simple, really nice. Once you've overcome sort of this initial stiffness of the product once it gets out of the packaging, it is super nice to have this around your wrists. It provides a bit of extra stability because it's so large, and you can put it on nice and tight if you want to. So the wrist joint gets a bit of extra stability. The cushioning is great, and the dowel is just so much easier than very long straps. Now I can imagine if you're like a super hardcore powerlifter and you want to wrap 15 times around the bar, you know, normal wrist wraps, or straps, sorry, are maybe the thing for you. But for 99.5% of other people out there, this is great. You can just, it's really almost lock and load. You walk up to the bar, wrap it around, click, bam, ready to go, and you can start lifting. So no fiddling, it's easy to do with one hand, so you can imagine when, you know, both hands are grabbing onto the bar, you're gonna have to do one with one hand anyway, at least. But it's so easy that you get the hang of it after 2 or 3 sets already, to just click it on and you're good to go. I also like it that there's no rubber on each side, which means the inside can slide around the bar nice and easily to sort of throttle it into position. And you don't really need any rubber on the outside, because you're not holding the outside, you're holding the dowel in place, making it you know, so much easier that you don't have to think about that. Downsides, not really. Like I said, it's a bit of stiffness that you have to overcome, but it's not an issue. Downside of the large piece of neoprene, I've said that in other reviews as well, is that it will collect a lot of sweat. So definitely recommending to wash this every week, maybe every couple of weeks, because sweat will build up in here and this will turn nasty at some point. But if you wash it regularly, don't put it in a washing machine but use a hand wash, then you'll be fine, and these dowel straps will last you for a very long time. And you're getting a great product for that. It's good value, and it's definitely something that if you take your lifting serious and you might struggle with your grip maybe a little bit, this is something you need to have. This is Peter from Reviews on Anything, with a look at the Grip Power Pads lifting straps with dowel. Thank you Grip Power Pads for sending us the review unit, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers!